Welcome to the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, where we help you conquer the internet one video at a time. We cover everything from how to start a YouTube channel to how to make a video go viral. And now, here's your host, the one and only Dusty Porter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 397 of the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. Dusty Porter here, the host of the show. If you're looking to either start, grow, or monetize a YouTube channel, this is the premier podcast for you, my friend. If you haven't listened to the show or you're a new listener, we interview wonderful content creators, specifically YouTube creators, and get behind the scenes a little bit of what kind of makes them tick, how they found success on YouTube, and just the different strategies they've put in place and things they've learned along the way. So if that sounds something that might be interesting to you, certainly take a look, download this, and I promise you will not regret it. You can subscribe to the show and be notified every Friday morning when we release a new conversation. A couple of ways you can support us and get in touch with us is you can go over to our TubeBuddy link, the tool that we recommend all YouTube creators try. And then when you do that, you'll get a free 30-day trial. It'll help us out. It'll help you out. It's the one tool I recommend all creators try at least once. And then a couple of other ways. We have one of the largest and fastest growing YouTube creator economy communities on the internet on our Discord server. You can support us over on our Patreon for as little as $5, and you're good to go. That's really all you have to do. And then lastly, I do offer professional coaching and consultation. All of that's in the show notes below. Anything else we'll tell you about throughout the show. And with all of that out of the way, let's jump into this week's conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's conversation on the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. So excited to be here today, as always. I'm joined today by Anastasia Artemova. Anastasia and Anna are the host of Make That Change YouTube channel, created to help newcomers arrive, excel, and thrive in Canada. Started as a hobby, the channel eventually turned into a media production business, helped launch a tech startup, and launch Canada's first career newsletter, which is super cool. Anastasia, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dusty. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. We finally made this happen. We had a couple of rescheduling primarily on my part, so just super glad to finally be on the call with you. Can you give the audience here, before we even dive into things, an overview or an origin story of the YouTube channel? Again, the name of the channel is Make That Change. You co-host it with Anna. Am I saying her name correctly? Is it Anna? Is that right?
Correctly.
Okay, yeah. Great. So if you would just give us a full rundown or origin story of the channel.
Yeah, definitely. So both Anna and I are immigrants to Canada. So we moved here at different times. Anna moved about 5 years ago now, and I've moved to Canada almost 14 years now. And when we'd met, we've been sharing a lot of our stories of what it's like of adapting to the new country, figuring things out, how new systems work, just even like the simplest things of like, how do you deal with a bank? Or how do you like apply for, I don't know, a driver's license? And we kept talking about a lot of different things where there's not a lot of things, there's a lot of stuff available online about what it's like to move to the new country, what the experience is like, but there's not a lot of like actual practical, like step-by-step guides. And felt like there's a lot of stuff that we had to figure out by ourselves. And at some point we're like, hey, I wish there's a bunch of stuff that we knew that we hadn't have to figure out ourselves. And that's how our YouTube channel was born. It was born on the premise of let's create the content that doesn't just vlog or talk about, hey, here's my life about moving to the new country, but rather actual practical step-by-step guides and tips on how to actually be successful in the country much faster than just having to figure stuff out by yourself.
Absolutely. And with that being the case, did you have any experience with content creation before the YouTube channel?
Great question. So I've dabbled a little bit with Instagram in the past. So tried to get a head start on Instagram as a coffee shop hopper influencer back in the day, a couple of years ago. But beside that, there's not much experience neither Anna or I had with content creation.
How did you learn? Because the channel now looks so good. You guys have done such a good job with the branding of the channel. It's very vibrant, very colorful. The thumbnails look great. How did you learn? What were your processes early on to learn or get up to speed so you could successfully grow a channel?
So I do have a background in design. So I guess that takes care of some of the visual components of the channel overall. I also have a background in marketing, general marketing as well. So that helped us make the right decisions faster than I think a typical content creator channel would.
Okay.
And but everything else, really figuring our ropes out on YouTube, learning how to edit. We've learned that from scratch, really. We did not know how to edit initially. We did not have the right equipment. it was just taking things as we go. We made a video, we felt like we wanted to do a certain visual effect or a certain graphic, we wanted to represent something, and we just taught ourselves how to do it.
What has been the most surprising thing about being on YouTube? Like when you look back at your journey thus far, you guys are almost, I haven't said this yet, but you guys are almost at 60,000 subscribers, just over 200 videos, which is a crazy good ratio. You've only done a couple hundred videos and you're well on your way to that 100,000 subscriber mark. So what surprised you the most about being, you can consider yourself a YouTuber now?
Yeah, I'll start with is that it feels like it's getting harder and harder to grow and just get to that level. And sometimes I look at some other folks and they have 100 videos and 70,000 subscribers. So we're still not there yet. But I would say the biggest surprise for us was really realizing the amount of work that you have to put into every single video. Yeah. And there's a difference, I think, between creating content for the sake of creating content and creating content to provide valuable insights to your audience. And I think the moment you start really getting into the mindset of how do I make sure that they get it? How do I make sure I provide maximum value? The amount of time you spend on doing research, scripting, and even editing and post-production just grows exponentially. And that was probably the biggest thing that we've realized over time and started struggling with as well.
Yeah, that's a thing that most people just don't understand or realize until they do it. They see that it's a video and that it's uploaded on YouTube, but they don't realize the research that went into it, looking at the analytics, looking at doing the thumbnail, doing the description, the title, making sure the links are correct, going back and editing. There's so much involved in a YouTube video. What is your, I normally ask this a little later in the interview, but I'm going to ask it now since we're on this topic. What is your process like, yours and Anna's process of making a video from start to finish? Can you give us from ideation all the way to being published and the things you do after the fact?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll start with saying that ideation is probably one of the easiest things for us. One of the criteria for us to decide to start this channel was for us to be able to even come up with topics that we felt like we could talk about. So even before we even started a YouTube channel account, Anna and I sat down and we told ourselves like, hey, can we come up with 100 topics that we feel we could share some expertise or experience with? And we come up with those 100 topics in one night, in one evening. And at that point, we were like, okay, there is something we can totally share. So let's try that. And from there on, it was just following that content plan. And the thing is that no matter what ideas you come up with, the moment you release the video, the moment people start commenting and sharing their insights or asking questions, that just completely derails your plan because you realize that, okay, this is what people want. This is what people are more curious about. And that's how our content plan evolves, really. So we take a combination of looking at what videos perform well. We look at what are some of the questions our audience is asking the most, and what are some of the stuff that we personally feel interested in working on as well. And that's how we sometimes split how we work on content, like what type of content Anna works on, what type of content I work. Because sometimes like I'll suggest a topic to Anna, and she's like, yeah, no, I don't want to do research on that. And I'm like, what? No, it's so much interesting. And then I'll end up working on that. And then Anna will do the same on some other piece of content. So that's how we also decide who works on what. So that's in terms of scripting and content.
As far as the videos go, do you both have tasks that you do on every video? So you're the editor and she's the person who does this. Do you guys divvy that up between both of you so you can pump more videos out?
No, I wish it worked that way. I wish it did. So the way we work is really we serve as a litmus test for each other. So for topics that, let's say, for scripts that I write, she always does editing and kind of review and finalization of scripts, and vice versa. The same thing for videos. I think more often than not, what the way it turns out to go is I usually do initial rough cuts. And then Anna polishes. She has a much better attention to detail. And like she had all these little nice effects and details and stuff like that. And I put the big initial piece together. So that's how it trends initially. But sometimes there are some scripts that Anna feels really strongly about, or I feel really strongly about, that we edit from start to finish.
Can you talk about the pros and cons of having a partner on a YouTube channel because oftentimes I have singular creators on here, but I have had, I've had father and son duo creators, I've had friends, I've had partners, I've had, whatever it may be. What would you say the pros and cons are of obviously having more hands to work on things, but as you just said, sometimes it doesn't always work the way that people think. So what would you say about having a duo or a multiple people working on a YouTube channel?
A few things. One, I think it's that litmus test. You have an idea and you test it against each other. You have a script and you have someone to proofread it for you and test, how does this idea land? Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? So that's really helpful. And you really don't feel alone in that sense. You always rely on the fact that, okay, I know I don't feel really great about this script or about this edit, but I know that when Anna looks at it, she'll make it better, and vice versa. So that really helps in terms of just the overall kind of pressure that we all feel as content creators in terms of, like, is our content good? Is it going to work? Is it not? That's number one thing. I think number two thing, definitely on the amount of work that we're able to accomplish within the given time. I think if it was one of us working on that, I don't think our content would have been nearly as good in terms of like production value and in terms of the amount of research that we're able to do. So it just really helps to level up the quality of the work that we do within the same period of time. So our goal is to still do one video per week. And I've tried doing 2 videos per week at some point for a period of about a month or a month and a half, and it's still been really challenging.
Yeah, even with 2 people, right, it's still difficult, especially when, like you said, there's working with multiple people, somebody might be a perfectionist, the other person may not be. I love that answer, by the way. That's a great answer. And I would think that a lot of times one of the main complaints that I hear about being a creator is just the loneliness of it, because it can be quite a lonely journey if you don't seek out other avenues like what we have with our creator Discord server or forums or mastermind groups or whatever it may be. It can be very lonely sitting behind a camera. You would think that all these people watching you, thousands of people watching your videos, that it wouldn't be, but that's not really the case, because as a creator, sometimes you are lonely and that can get discouraging.
Yeah, definitely. And I've heard that a lot. And I have a few friends who are also content creators who are alone. And then they always love telling us how much they wish they had a partner to work with on that. Mm-hmm. And at some point recently, I was actually thinking about that. And I'd realized I was working on the content plan. And I'd realized, you know what? Like, it's not fun to do it alone. I was trying to arrange certain things, thinking about the topics. I was like, you know what? No, like, it's so much better, so much more fun doing it together. And it really helps eliminate a lot of the doubts that you have when you're working solo, I find.
Yeah. And you have someone to celebrate the highs with and someone to cry with you in the bad times. Yeah, I could not agree more with that. Now, as far as you talked about, you tried to up the kind of cadence to 2 a week. You realized that just couldn't happen. What do you guys do or put in place, systems that you put in place to make sure you're efficient and you do upload that 1 video a week or 2, whatever your cadence currently is? How do you make sure y'all stick to the deadlines? What are some things you've put in place?
It's hard. We constantly blow our deadlines, so let's put it this way. In terms of content plans, so one of the things that we've been trying to get better at is not think about what's our next video for the next week going to be, but trying to think about batches. Like, what's our next month worth of content going to be? Scripting at least 4 scripts in advance and trying to batch record them as well. Because recording in itself is a very torturous process for us. First, English is not our first language. Remembering or reading off the scripts and figuring out the right intonations and all of that stuff takes a while for us. So recording in itself is a big chunk of our time. And we're ladies, so you need to prepare for recording before a video and things like that. So that takes an additional time, right? So I think batch recording really helps us not have to stress about it weekly. And then getting into this post-production side of things. So we do have an editor that helps us edit about half of our videos right now. So that has been a really huge help for us.
Yeah, having an editor is a big deal. You can send them all that raw footage and just get that nice little present back. That's what I always use that analogy when I think of an editor, because whenever I send them my podcast audio, it's all messy, it's all messed up, there's things, but when they send it back to me, it's got the intro, the outro, all the things that I like, and it's like having a present. So it's good to have help, and when you can afford that. Hey guys, a quick pause in the interview this week to talk about my new weekly newsletter called the Entrepreneur's Minute. My plan for the newsletter is to only send out one email every week with a recap of what's going on in my business, maybe do an income report letting you know how much money I've made that week or that specific month, an update on my YouTube channel, and just a behind-the-scenes look of what it takes to be a creator, the books that I'm reading, the products I'm discovering, new AI tools and resources. So if you're just looking for a way to better connect with me, Dusty, and see what I got going on, and the different things that I want to write about each week, maybe it's my family, maybe it's my business, it's absolutely free. It's called The Entrepreneur's Minute, and I would really appreciate it. All right, now back to the show. As far as niching down and knowing what your target audience, you made a very good conclusion early on in the interview when you were talking about the origin of your channel, and you were talking about when you started uploading, you pivoted or changed directions with as far as what you're creating content about because you realized what the audience wanted. Do you and Anna know who your target audience is? I know you do, but I want you to expound upon this. How important, maybe is the better way to rephrase that question, is it to know who that target person or audience is? Because you guys have titled the channel, Make That Change, Principal Tips on How to Arrive, Excel, and Thrive in Canada. So you're targeting a small niche of people and people who are going to be coming to a specific country, which is Canada, and then how to help them excel and flourish in their new country or homeland. So explain the importance of that, of knowing who that audience is.
That's a tough one. There's a lot to unpack here. So we started really with a thought of, hey, how can we help people who are planning on moving to Canada or potentially have recently moved and struggling? So that's how we've started. I think our first 1, 2, and 3 videos, actually no, so the very first video that went semi-viral in the old terms, and semi-viral for us was like 5,000 views versus 100 per view. I think the first lesson we've learned from our first viral video is that as opposed to creating step-by-step practical, dry informational videos, people love a little bit of a personal touch, personal experience, and a little bit of personal opinions. After having done a dozen of videos of here's a step-by-step guide of what to do when you're in Canada or when you're thinking of moving to Canada, we created a video about here's the habits I've developed after moving to the new country. And that appealed to a broader audience than just the newcomers or people who want to move to Canada. It also appeared, weirdly, it somehow got into recommendations for some retirement channels. So a lot of 60 plus folks or 60 plus audience came on our channel because they were curious, like, what do people who are moving to a new country feel like? So that was an interesting and first learning for us that our content could potentially appeal not just to people who are thinking of moving to Canada or who are immigrants, but also people living in the country, maybe even living in other countries, but are curious about that moving to a new country experience. Mm-hmm. Our second viral video, which ended up counting like hundreds of thousands of views, was about just discussing the state of things in Canada. And that's where we had our second realization that our content could also be appreciated not just by immigrants, but people who live in the country as well. So that's how our approach and our thinking about the channel has changed a little bit. So when we think about our content, we try to keep a good balance between the content that would be interesting to people moving to the country, but also people who are already living in the country aren't necessarily newcomers or immigrants.
That may be one of the better answers to that question I've ever received. That's really well thought out. I think that as you create content on YouTube, you know what your niche is. You guys knew you wanted to target people moving to Canada, not at the time, maybe not even Canadians, but then it moved into understanding your audience, right? Of who they are and what they want. And then you saw some other kind of sub-niches with the retirees come in and the people who already live in Canada. And now you have this nice mix of exactly knowing who's in the box of people you want to create content for. And that box you can go outside of it a little bit, but primarily you stay and you live there. And I just love that. It's a great answer to that question. Thank you for sharing that with us. When it comes to monetization and making money from the channel, this is what a lot of people want to know. They want to hear the dollar signs, right? They want to know how you're making money. So if you feel comfortable talking about this, will you please share with us just the monetization methods for you and the channel, what you guys are doing to make money, and then maybe on average of kind of what to expect of what you guys might make on an average month?
Yeah, definitely. So we don't have a lot of monetization ways, but I would say about 50% of our money is coming through the AdSense, and about 50% is coming in through the services that we sell ourselves.
Okay, and the services that you sell, can you list those out and explain how you sell those and utilize YouTube to convert?
Yeah, definitely. So the services that we primarily focus on selling are career counseling services. So it would be things like career coaching sessions, resume review sessions, and that's pretty much all. Or selling kind of coaching bundles where we really work with someone individually one-on-one for a period of time to help them prepare for looking for a new job or for the Canadian job market, because we work with folks from all over the world. And corporate cultures, job search cultures are very different. So one of the things that we've actually realized early on when we started making videos is that there are these three major problems that every single newcomer is experiencing when they're watching our videos. One of them is the feeling of loneliness. So they want to feel like they belong, want to be part of the community. Another one is pretty simple, right? Like, what steps do I need to take? How do I move to Canada? So a lot of content around moving or programs that exist. And the third one really is, how do I find a job? How do I figure out how my profession applies to the realities of the job market? And among those three things, we felt like we are best positioned to help people succeed in their career. I've had a pretty great career. I've also been in management and director roles. So I've hired and fired people. I've been in recruitment positions as well. So I had a lot to share in terms of actual practical advice on how to land a job or how to approach your job search strategy. So that's how we started designing our channel around giving people more insights and more tools to help them land their dream job.
And are you just putting links to the page where they can sign up and hire you guys for that coaching in the description of the videos, and then using that free marketing of your videos to push people to that page?
Yes, so we add our links in every single video that we create. The best videos that perform are actually career themed. So we have a few videos on the mistakes people make when building their resume, or the top 5 tips that you need to follow to eliminate most of the resume mistakes that people take. So those are the videos that primarily actually generating most of our customers. Other videos, not so much.
Okay. And then would you be able to tell us, on average, a channel like yours averaging between 5,000, 6,000 and 10,000, 12,000 views a day, with the ad revenue and the coaching clients and the things that you guys are doing, like what on average would you say you guys can make from the channel in a month?
Not a lot, for a number of reasons. And the biggest reason being, since our target audience does not have a high paying propensity, so our CPM is lowish. So currently we're making around $1,000 on AdSense on a monthly basis, and around the same amount monthly on coaching services.
And go ahead.
Yeah, so last year, one thing I actually forgot to mention, so aside from these things, and maybe something you might want to decide to talk about or not, aside from coaching and AdSense, what we're now also doing is we're doing media production for other startups as well. With all of that said, last year, if we're looking into just a total number, last year, we made just under 100,000.
And I certainly want to talk about the production side of it, because it's led from the YouTube channel, but I want to stay here just for a minute, just so the audience can understand. If their channel averages, would you say your channel averages around 7,000, 8,000 views a day? Would that be a good, maybe more than that? I'm looking at the analytics that I can see through TubeBuddy here, but maybe a little less, a little more. So let's just say 6,000 or 7,000 views a day. So you could imagine if they tripled that, right? Like the ad revenue would triple as well, even with their low CPM. So you start averaging 30,000 views a day, then you're looking at probably $3,000 to $4,000 a month on just the ad revenue, right? Plus the more calls that come in, which more coaching clients, it just snowballs, right? That's the power of YouTube. Now let's go and talk about how it led into the other stuff, the production stuff. Are people finding you on YouTube and reaching out to you that way, or are you reaching out to them through YouTube? Like, how is that working?
It has been all purely inbound interest. So some startups or some founders or teams have basically, the way it usually starts is that there's a startup that wants to build a product that caters to newcomers. And I think we're lucky to be in Canada and creating that type of content and that type of channel in Canada specifically, because Canada focuses greatly on immigration. So there's a lot of products and services that are being built specifically catering to immigrants and newcomers, and not just immigrants who are moving permanently to the country, but also work permit international students. And that really increases the audience. And so there's a lot of startups starting out in that space. And a lot of them do want to jump on the train of working with influencers and promoting their product for free. So oftentimes startups do reach out to us saying, like, hey, what would it take for us to promote our services on your channel? And we start talking. And more often than not, they reach out to us saying that, hey, we love the quality of the content you guys create. And one thing leads to another typically. And what I like doing is I like to just recommending them, guys, you should have your own social presence. You should have your own content. Don't just rely on someone else's content. And that's how we end up getting engagements with them, where we basically create videos on their behalf for their social presence or for their marketing activities. And what that means, it's not just videos. It could also be shorts or reels. It could also be Instagram posts or blog posts.
It's a good time then to ask about your strategy on that, the diversifying between long form and short form content. Can you talk about your strategy for doing long form and short form and where you see the place of vertical video for your channel and going forward?
So we have recently deprioritized short form completely. We have dabbled with it for a while, maybe for about a period of 6 months. But the way we've done that was in a bit of a lazy way. So we would just take our original long form videos and we would just slice and dice it into short form content. So we never really created short form content first. And what we saw from those experiments is that we saw a lot of people coming in, a lot more views. It was a lot easier to get higher than average amount of views compared to the long form videos. But there wasn't much more we were getting from that. Not much more engagement, not much more following, and it just did not feel like we were getting, we were spending time on short form content. It just did not feel like we were getting the same amount of output or we were delivering the value that we wanted to deliver. So over time, what we've done is we've just phased out shorts. We decided, hey, let's not spend time on shorts. In the end of the day, we're a little bit more of an educational, maybe a little bit inspirational type channel, not necessarily entertainment. And I feel like short form, generally speaking, for our audience, works for entertainment form only, which we're not really good entertainers. We're educators, and I feel like the best way education is delivered into a little bit more expanded manner in a longer form video.
So if you're listening to this now, this podcast, she said something very powerful there. They experimented, they tried, they failed, and then they succeeded. But what happened is they realized what content works for them in their channel. I know for me as an educator on YouTube, I do technology tutorials. Shorts for me are absolutely useless. Now, there are ways that I can incorporate them if I have time to do so, and I will. Now, for this podcast, people love shorts because it's little small snippets of powerful things that are said throughout the episode. Now, I find it, honestly, even with that use case, still to be a little rather lacking because I don't consume short form content very much. If I watch a video, I'm on a walk or I'm doing things around the house or I'm on a job, whatever it may be. I'm working out, I'm at the gym, whatever. I'm consuming long form content on YouTube, just like a podcast. My wife, on the other hand, she loves Facebook Reels. She's a teacher. So she finds all these influencers when she doesn't have much free time because we have 2 kids. But when she does have free time, she'll get on the Facebook Reels and see what these teacher influencers are doing because that's how she has to consume her content because we have 2 young kids and it's hard for her to really have time. So understanding how your audience is consuming, understand what works better for you. And I hate to break it to you. You can talk about the TikTok ban. You can talk about there's no monetization methods. No, there's people making a ton of money with YouTube Shorts. I just feel that a view of a short form bit of content is not worth near as much as a podcast download or a long form video or other bits of content. So take that as you will, implement with your channel and see what works. It's not a one size fit all. It's a really great answer by Anastasia there. I want to ask you now, as we get towards the end of this interview, what's next for your channel? Like long term, like short term and long term, what are you guys hoping to do with the channel?
So one of the things that we've recently started is a tech startup of what we've learned through career counseling sessions. And one of those biggest learnings is that a lot of people need help finding the first job. And in the end of the day, it's not just newcomers, it's anyone really. It's one of those things. People will always eat, so restaurants will always do well, and people will always look for jobs. So that's another thing. So what we're currently doing is so one of the things that we've realized through coaching sessions is that every single career counseling session is pretty much the same. 80% of it is the same. You explain the same types of principles and you're doing nearly the same kind of work.
Right.
So what we realize is that there's an opportunity to automate that, especially now with the development of ChatGPT, OpenAI, and large language models. There's a lot of opportunity to optimize that. And someone doesn't have to pay hundreds of dollars to and spend an hour of your time going through that. And we realized that there's a product opportunity for it. So we've just recently launched a tech startup called Maven Mind, which is essentially an AI career coach. It's meant to really walk you through every single step of what the job search process looks like and how to present yourself best as a candidate and as a professional. So one of our big focuses is building this startup and using our YouTube channel and what we've done as a marketing engine to promote our product. So that's one. And second, just continuing doing what we're doing with our YouTube channel. And really, we're already seeing some feedback saying, hey guys, you've been so helpful in every single step of my moving to Canada process. And those types of comments are the ones that mean the most to us.
Yeah.
So we really want to be the go-to channel for anyone thinking about moving to Canada or wanting to learn a little bit more about success in Canada. So we just want to continue creating more content. We're experimenting with new formats as well. So we're going into interview series format, so creating a little bit longer format content. We want to do a little bit more tutorial-based kind of guide, step-by-step guides-based content as well. And we'll see where that goes.